folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm home from Twitchcon and a little family vacation along with it. So it's taken me a few days to get things back to normal, collect my thoughts, get my notes, verify some info, all that stuff. But we're here and ready to get everyone caught up. On that note though, I want to take a quick second to thank all of you for being here. Without you guys, I wouldn't have the opportunity to go take part in things like Twitchcon or have the opportunities it provides itself. Doesn't matter if you just watch my YouTube videos, if you're a Patreon supporter, a sub on Twitch, follower on Twitter, every one of you plays a part in making all of this possible. So again, thank you guys for being there and being part of my content. Now, with being gone for almost a week, I didn't have an opportunity to do a video on quite a few things. So this will be a catch-up of sorts, but I was able to clarify and expand on many of the topics in the patch notes, Nikita's Q&A, as well as the roadmap by talking to the devs, Nikita, Dimitri, all of those guys down there. So hopefully we can get some clear answers to the questions that came out of the Q&A and some of these other things. I also got a chance to get hands-on with the new map, and while I can't show you much of it other than B-roll from the tournament, I can give you an idea what to expect when we get the new map in Arena, and that should be in the following weeks. Now, just as a note, the last bit of the video, the last gonna be 35-40 minutes, is just to preserve the interview. There isn't anything there. It's just the interview without any interruptions or talking over it, an original recording, if you will. Twitch doesn't keep VODs after like 3 months or something, I think. They just delete them. So these things, these interviews and stuff, the BSG, they just disappear, never to be seen again. And usually the only way we can get info is like clips or cut-ups or things that take it out of context, stuff that doesn't give you the original stuff. So I like to include them in their entirety in these for that reason, just to archive them that way. So if you want to see it, it's there, but don't feel like because this video is going to be really long, it's crazy long, that there's a bunch here. You get to that interview, you can stop watching. I know that's going to hurt me in the algorithm, but maybe you can offset that by liking and commenting and subscribing and stuff. But it's more there just for the community, so we have that stuff preserved for at least for as long as this YouTube channel's around. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the new upcoming map to Arena. It is if you haven't seen it yet, it's a fortress style map or a castle, however you want to look at it. I didn't get a ton time to analyze it, but here are my takeaways from the few matches I played. It leans heavily into other tactical shooter team games type of maps. So it has lots of contrast on the walls, controlled vertices, there's not clutter everywhere, well-managed symmetry, easy callouts, all that kind of, textbook stuff. But to me, it felt like the first map for Arena that wasn't Tarkov turned into a Arena map. Now, the other Arena maps are good. I'm not saying they're not, and I'm not saying they're not built well. What I'm saying is that you feel the Tarkov presence heavily in those maps, more so than you do, let's say, the Arena gameplay. This map is the other way around. It definitely feels like an Arena map, not a Tarkov map, which I think is a good thing. A mix of those kind of maps, I think, is healthy. It has a lot of good sight lines. The balance of between the two sides for blasting, anyways, I didn't try any other game modes, seems to be really, really well set up, and it was fun to play. The map is coming with patch 2.2 for Arena, that's according to the roadmap, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I would expect that to be in a few weeks, maybe a month at the most. We don't have a date on it, but just based on everything else, that's kind of where I'm putting it in my head. Next up, we'll get into the Nikita interview. Now, I expected this to be super softball and not a big deal, but the first question was actually kind of a hard hitter. And honestly, most of the questions were pretty good. Who would have known Russell Brand could actually ask really good questions about Tarkov? Now, some of them were repetitive to me, but I've also been plugged into the game for almost 5 years now, so you might see it differently. So I'm gonna go over all of them just in case if you see something repetitive. Just remember, there's other people out there that are new to the community. Okay, so Nikita opened up before taking questions by talking about the roadmap, which we'll get into that more detail after the segment. He also mentioned the game has been in development for 10 years now, which I even forget. I always tend to think about like 2017 and 18, but they obviously started way before that, spooling up to get ready for the early access, the NDA release, whatever you want to call it. And he does his best to give a little pat on the back for the team for working on it and sticking with it for that a bit of time. Now, he did get into how the roadmap looks pretty small and there's not a lot of stuff on there, but he emphasized that that's because there's a lot of surprises coming, things they don't want to tip their hats to, features or events they just don't want to disclose. To me, this feels, it has a flavor of they just have some pretty ambitious goals and they're probably pretty cool, but they don't want to tell us in case they are end up being delayed or they don't work out, which is a good thing. You can like that or not, but honestly, it's how I would deal with it if I was in his shoes. So there's more stuff coming. We just don't know what it is than what the roadmap shows. In other words, the roadmap is not all encompassing. But with that, let's get into the first questions. Now I'm gonna kind of do a react bit to this. We're gonna play it so you guys can hear it. You can hear the questions, you can hear the answers. We'll cut out the dead space, and then I'll throw the extra information or any relevant stuff I have to add to this to clarify it if we need to.
We have questions here, a mixture of just things that we wanted to ask and community questions as well. And I think it's time to...
So keep that in mind that some of these are questions they came up with and some of them are community. They're not all community questions, but some of them are.
I'm going to read these out exactly as written because I want to make sure that if someone asks a question, it's asked properly. So Nick, first question, are you happy with the current state of the game's economy and the player's progression? Will we ever see a more hardcore enemy?
So, yeah.
Real quick, he says that part at the end, will we see a more hardcore enemy? I don't know if that's just a misspeak, a mistype, or if they pretty much glossed over that specific part of the question. So it was kind of a weird intro in the question, so I don't really understand it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this vibe particularly, it's not what's supposed to be in terms of progression, because we added arena, we added this new marathon quest, and it actually gave you a lot of experience, so the pace was increased for sure. And it's not how it's meant to be in Escape from Tarkov style, so most likely for the next vibe there will be some changes that will slow down the progress for sure, because right now let's take it as it is, as a test maybe. That's it, because it's not like a problem, because of course we get it, that it was too fast actually. But some of you still think that it's okay, because like not everyone is a streamer basically and have an option to play the game every single day for 6 hours, 8 hours, etc.
So this is huge part to me, and I think this isn't going to get enough attention from people, but it shows how aware BSG is of the problems. They don't do a great job of communicating it, but they do pay attention. We meme about this stuff a lot, and there is pretty stark lines drawn between communities right now. And it's not streamers versus casuals. It's heavily that way. But this wipe, I think it sucks. I don't like it. I'm not having much fun with it. And it's because the progression is just done. The progression of the game was done in a couple of days. However, there are people that are enjoying that. And he is expanding on that big time, talking about how he realized that and trying to walk that knife's edge. He gets into some more detail about how difficult that is to make everybody as happy as they can.
Every single vibe, there is something new is going on in terms of balance, economy and stuff. So let it be this way. So this vibe is different. The next vibe will be totally different too. And everything will be balanced in different way. We'll see how it will go.
And he's going to expand on this a little bit more, but he pretty much straight up says here that, yes, we know that it was super fast. We're going to balance it in the next wipe. So I would expect nerfs on everything from arena XP and money to hopefully Bitcoin, getting rid of the arbitrage process to where you can buy something on a trader and sell it right away, or even if it's just buying it off the flea and selling it right away, even if there's some middle road there. Hopefully they do some stuff to contain that and get it to be where it isn't so wild. And based on conversations with them and through this whole process and what I've heard from other creators, talking with them as well, as much as I hate to admit it, this last wipe was a throwaway wipe. It was a test wipe. It was a way for them to test the way individual systems functioned, but not worry about how they all interact with one another. And this makes sense. Because it doesn't matter how much balancing you try to do, players are always going to throw you for a loop. So why waste energy trying to balance, the XP transfers and the money transfers and other parts of the economy and barters and all this other stuff when you know it's going to get blown apart anyways, regardless of what you do. So now that they have data, they can actually make educated decisions about how to dial stuff back or move it. Because honestly, you're gonna need to change everything from the loot pools and stuff like that, quest rewards, cultist circle, Bitcoin, arena, all of that stuff plays huge impacts on why the economy in the game is why it is this wipe. Now, the next question is also kind of a hard hitter, and there's some pretty interesting information revealed here. So listen closely, especially to how Nikita answers some of this.
What is the future direction of the game? So MMO, maybe massively multiplayer online, or something closer to a raid-based shooter?
So right now, I think the most part of the the bigger part of the team is working on an actual completion of the game. So you all know that the game will have storyline quests, and it will have an option to finally escape from Tarkov. So that's why we're pushing on it. And right now it's more about to add the end game content within the game. And yeah, it will be around the whole principle of raids, and yeah, it will be around like this, because
So real quick, the bit he talks about, he's emphasized this a couple of times in this interview. He will over and over again that they are working towards 1.0 release, and they have been talking a lot about that for the last 6 months to a year. More and more as time goes on, we hear about it more and more and reiterated and reinforced. So they really are pushing to get the game out. And that's going to have an impact on everything we see over the next probably year. I figure sometime next year, probably the end of next year is kind of where in my head I have it. I don't have any secret information. That's just how I feel right now about where everything's at. It's going to be sometime at the end of next year. And so if most of the team is working on that, I say most, I think he uses majority, and it's hard to tell with Russian if he understands the connotations between the difference. So you always have to take a little bit of grain of salt. But if a lot of the team is working towards that, that means there's not going to be a lot of content generated. There's not going to be a lot of changes. Now, part of that process is fixing bugs, quality of life, things like that, which probably will filter into the game, which is good. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to see is, you know, the Unity upgrade, bug fixes, quality of life stuff, the stuff that they want for the end game that they're working on as part of that process. But when it comes to content, we're probably not going to get a lot more until release. And then for the main part of the question, he says that the game is going to be a raid style system. So the idea of open world, not just here, but in several places they've discussed, and we've kind of got this hint for a while that open world is, I hate to say it's dead, because they keep leaving a little glimmer of hope that they might work on in the future, but I don't think it's happening. I think it's dead. We'll hear a couple of reasons why. I think Tarkov is going to be finished. They're going to work on it for 10 years, according to him. But any idea that we're going to be major changes like open world, I think is a pipe dream.
MMO aspect of the game, it still will be in there, but I think the gameplay wise, and we kind of settled in, and I think the core gameplay is ready, and we won't change something drastically. So yeah, this is it.
There was a poll made to remove the flea market next wipe, and 47% said yes, 45% said no.
So I looked around for this poll for a little bit. I couldn't find it. I don't know if it was one on Twitter, if it was done by another creator. I can't remember exactly. There were several polls done, some by Nikita, some by BSG, some by, Pestily, some by me. Point is, the numbers seem about right for what we've seen across various things. It's about a 50-50 split for getting rid of the flea or not. If you do know which poll he's talking about, feel free to share it in the comments. I'll have to enable it because the auto mod will catch it, but I'll put it in there so people want to see it, they can.
Will we ever expect to see a wipe without a flea market, even just as a test? And what are the general plans for the flea market?
So the percentage is not all right, because it will leave a lot of people unhappy, basically, if we select this or that. Most likely, the removal of the flea market will be as an option for the hardcore mode. So we plan to have this whole prestige system within the game, and you'll be able to pick the perks and the drawbacks before you start the game. And one of the drawbacks will be like removal of the flea market.
So, quick note on this from just other discussions. This will probably be after release. The prestige system, there's a very small chance we'll see it before release, but probably not. It'll be after release. Like if you go hardcore mode like he's talking here and no flea market, you will still be on the same servers as everybody else, the regular PvP servers. You're going to get bonuses like extra XP or something like that for doing some of these things. So there's a lot of details to flesh out there, so don't get too hung up on it. But this is where that's what he's talking about when he talks about the prestige system.
So at least it will be as a test for some of you guys if you will select that option. But other than that, I'm not sure that we will remove it totally for the vibe. But again, it's possible actually, because I love the idea that every single vibe has something new, has something different in it. So who knows, maybe we'll remove that at least for one wipe and see how it will go. Because I personally don't like the flea market. I was loving it for the many years, and right now I'm feeling that it's not good for the progression and for the whole principle of the game itself. But it is what it is. It's a different style of gameplay. It's you can have basically the different role within the game. You can be the trader basically, and you won't need to play the game as much that other people do. So it is as a workable, livable thing within the game, but yet, due to the complexity of the game, all of this stuff we have in the game, flea market adds unneeded, let's say, combination, unneeded things that actually boost up or slow down progress. It's kind of hard to track the progress and how to be on the pace with the progress within the game with the flea market, because it allows you basically to make your progress much more faster by obtaining items, like high-end items in early stages of the game. So it's not cool. We will think about it in the future, so yeah, maybe something will be happening about it, but at least it will be an option for the hardcore mode for the game.
Okay, so a lot to unpack here. He doesn't really like the flea. He used to. He doesn't like it anymore. He doesn't like it out. It makes the game too easy, but he realizes he can't just pull it out because a lot of the player base gets it. He doesn't close the door, though. He leaves the door open that we might do a wipe without the flea. As much as I think this would be cool, one, it's going to make a lot of people not play the game that wipe. It will, simply put. But two, it's a huge amount of work. You can't just turn the flea off. Some people might think you can, and it's no big deal. They don't know what they're talking about. It's very much not that simple. The flea market is the center of a spoke of the economy that everything is balanced around. This includes loot pools, loot location, the crafts in the hideout. Almost all of the barters only make sense if you have a flea market. There's many other things. So pulling out the flea market means you have to go look at all of that and do everything from balance the hundreds, if not thousands. I don't know if there's 1,000, but there's a lot of barters that you'll have to adjust. You'll have to add barters, and you'll have to adjust loot spawns because the value of things completely change if there's no flea market. You know, bolts and nuts and things that are worth a ton of money right now become worth a lot less if there's no flea market, whereas things that are cash or specific barter items for specific gear become worth a lot more to the individual player. So keep that in mind. We might all wish for it. I would love to have like a separate hardcore server. Maybe it's something they could test on the ETS, though I doubt that. It's cool to hear him talk about it. I don't have a lot of hope for it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So we'll see.
What are the plans for the team for after Tarkov? Will you resume development on Russia 2028, or are you working on something different?
So first of all, Tarkov will not end with the release of the game, so it will be DLCs and stuff.
I'm cringing right now because this answer is going to be what that's slipping here. I think a lot of people have overlooked, but I think is going to make Reddit fucking catch on fire.
And most importantly, there will be new game. We already kind of started the pre-production phase on that.
So he just kind of flippantly says it and moves on. You know, he's talking about DLC and they've got a 10-year plan for after Tarkov comes up, but they've already started pre-production on their next game. Okay, so pragmatically, realistically, this is a good thing. If you are a company that develops games, you don't wait till you're finished to start a new one, because then you have too big of a gap of time where you have no revenue. And as a company, you can't survive without revenue. So they need to start at some point on the next title, unless they were just going to shut down and never make another game, which they're not doing. So they've started pre-production on the next title, which we don't have any information about. We don't know if it's Russia 2028 or something completely different. But this is one of those things, the truths that the community probably just isn't ready to hear. Because you're going to have people freaking out now that they're working on the new game. They don't even care about Tarkov. I can read it already, which is just dumb. I get it. People are frustrated, but it's not how the world works. They've started pre-production on the next game. It's probably minimal. Pre-production isn't a ton of work. It's initial concepts, it's things like that. So we shall see. We'll get more information probably in the year to come. It'll trickle out little bits here and there since I say let it slip. I don't think this was like unintentional. I think this is kind of part of the plan of how they're going to do it, but expect to see a lot of people freaking out over this.
But again, the EFT must be released, must be polished. And actually, all of the stuff we planned for the release is kind of locked in. We actually don't add anything right now, so it's kind of locked. And
so this is kind of referring to like an internal roadmap they have. So instead of having open-ended areas or things where they might add stuff or stuff that isn't done, it is done. It's set up. They've got a roadmap from now to release, which they've probably had that for the better part of a year now, if I had to guess, or really close to it for the better part of a year, just with how things work. which is the first time they've done that since the game's really started. And that's where a lot of this design creep, this bloat, the dragging on of the beta, whatever you want to call it, early access, has really kind of, I think, hurt them in their own way too. I don't think they wanted to drag it out this long or wanted it to get this big, but it did. And so they've finally cut things. There's features that they wanted to do, like the KO system that isn't going to come before release, stuff like that. Maybe like addiction. I don't know. We didn't hear anything specific on that. I didn't ask. I should have. But some of that stuff is not going to make it into the game before release now because they are just trying to get it done. And rightfully so.
Ready to be done and eventually to be released. And that's important. After that, we will have the DLCs and everything. So the game will be live for at least one more decade or something, because it's already became a classic, I guess, and that's cool because it's always a good thing for us, for developers, to see every single year for the whole 10 years we kind of pushing our limits to something even bigger and bigger and bigger. And as I said before, it's a true miracle, and not only about our hard work, it's also about you guys, about your reactions, your feedback, and your dedication to the project. I received so many responses for this only single day. So yeah, we love you guys, and thank you for staying with us. Like, it's a good thing for us to keep going. Thank you.
Proof of life, that's me right there. Proof that I was in the crowd. I'm wearing my hat that I no longer have that Nice Guy stole from me. So if you see Nice Guy, tell him to give me my goddamn hat back. Motherfucker stealing my shit. Said he was going to give it to the Coast Guard. Such an asshole.
I want to roll the next two questions into one because they're both related to what you said before about how development doesn't end when the game gets finally released as a polished game with endgame content. Will there be more endgame content? For example, having something to spend millions of rubles on for a unique item that persists through wipes, more rewards for achievements such as unique hideout decorations.
Where's my Kerman cat?
Or any other long-term goals we can progress towards.
Oh, my Kerman cat.
And would there be any new monetization plans like camo skins, clothes, hideout cosmetics, things like that?
As I mentioned before, there will be a prestige system that will allow you to play the game constantly, repeatedly, and to earn some unique stuff. So you basically will complete the game, complete the main quests, and you will be able to restart it, but you will receive the prestige points or something. So it will be different prestige levels and some unique stuff.
And you can tell that the prestige system is still in really rough concept. They don't have a great idea. They've got rough. I can see in his voice and the way he's saying things that it's pretty much storyboarded right now at best. They haven't fleshed through the details all that much yet.
Again, as I mentioned it before, all of the end game content will be settled in the storyline quests. To complete the storyline quest, you will need to complete almost every aspect of the game. You'll need to spend a lot of money within the game, complete a lot of quests. So basically, the main driver to experience the end game content will be the completion of the storyline quests. And of course, I cannot say more about it because, as I mentioned it many times, the quests, storyline quests, will be available only in released version of the game. You won't be able to test them before because it's the final shot, let's say it like this, to surprise you in a good way and to have this feeling that the game is actually completed and all of your effort you put in the game will be around some very important tasks called storyline quests. So yeah, eventually, soon enough, you will experience that because we spend a lot of time on that right now. We started doing them in the last year, so it's an ongoing process. A lot of effort is being put onto the storyline quests.
I have really high expectations for this, and I probably shouldn't. Don't follow my lead. Don't have high expectations for stuff. Nikita's been talking about putting together the storyline quests, like the actual dialogue, the story, whatever, writing the story, if you will, since like 2022. I want to say early 2022 was the first time he really brought it up that he had kind of finished his ideas around them. Now, as far as them getting implemented, it sounds like they've been working on that last year, but I have high hopes and expectations that it's going to be really, really, really good because they've taken that time to work on them and make them good. So fingers crossed, maybe it's copium, we shall see.
And hopefully you will enjoy it soon enough.
Are there any plans to rework the operational tasks? Currently, they are too randomized.
These are dailies and weeklies.
Sometimes have out-of-the-way objectives for little reward. For example, killing other scavs as a scav for an operational quest for fence for only 0.1 rep and a few bandages. And I'm going to remind you, these are questions from the community, and I'm trying to read them as they're presented. They're quite blunt questions, a lot of them.
For the operational tasks, I think there will be another balancing pass on them, because there is a lot of different generated subtasks for that, and it's not always perfect in terms of awards and everything. So most likely it will be balanced pretty quick, maybe for the next patch or the patch after the next patch. So yeah, something will be done.
That's kind of dismissive. It's kind of a silly, I don't want to say it's a silly question. It's not a silly question because it's a real problem, but it's one of the lower end quality questions, I think, here, because the answer is just, oh yeah, we're going to work on it, right? And I don't think it's dismissive because he doesn't care. It's just they've got a lot of other shit to work about. They're not that worried about daily tasks. Daily tasks don't hurt you. You just don't get the reward, right? You're not hurt because you get a bad daily task. You just skip it. Maybe you re-roll it and it costs you some money, whatever. It does need fixing. Some of them are absurd. They made great progress from where they were before in Arena to where they are now. Now, that's not saying much. The bar was pretty low for that because the quests in Arena, the dailies and weeklies were terrible. So making them better wasn't that much, but they are good and they did go through it. And anytime you have a generative system like that, it does just take time and effort to dial it in and get it done. So it's probably just a matter of somebody having the time to do it, which maybe nobody has it now. It's this kind of stuff that sometimes makes me wish the community could volunteer in ways to do some of this legwork and help out, because I know there's people out there that would do it. I mean, you've got the whole SPT mod community that those guys are passionate about the game, and guys like that could maybe find a way. I'm rambling now. Just it'd be nice if we could help out, but we can't. So it is what it is.
In your opinion, what is the ideal loot economy meant to be? Do you want resources to be scarce and more hardcore? Or do you want players to hunt expensive items to fund lesser valued items through the flea market and traders?
This is a fucking great question, and there's a lot of complexity to it that whoever did this tried to fit in there. A lot of undertones from conversations in the community about how the economy actually works, what's important. Jesse Kazam's done lots of videos on explaining this, on why is it that bolts are worth a bunch of money, and that's you just go for money when you can buy everything, right? And how that economy makes the game less fun and stale. So and Nikita does get into some good answers here. Good answers, some that I don't really like, but that's my personal preference. Not that I don't like him, the way it came out. So let's listen.
It's a good question, actually, because I was always a fan of hardcore type of game. So the initial concept of the game was about the actual struggling. So the ammo and everything, like treatment items, the initial concept about them was like they were too scarce, like too rare to find, and that was kind of main.
Too scarce. He said scars, but scarce.
Thing. So you actually need to find 5 rounds, 10 rounds, like one single grenade in 1 week. So
now think about that. That's where his original vision for the game was, in a concept of, if you're playing in a week, you'll find 1 grenade to use. And that's how rare gear is. You have to think about but you wouldn't ever use full auto unless you were like, I'm going to die unless I do it, because you don't have, not just that you don't have good ammo, you don't have ammo, period. That is where they came at Tarkov originally from. And it was a vision a lot of us hopped on board for. However, a game like that is insanely difficult, and I understand that. And why I might like that, I'm also a streamer now. I don't work a 9-to-5 job like I used to. I do this. I can play the game every day. I have a completely different perspective on the game than, honestly, most of you. And I'm completely self-aware of that. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I always wanted DSG and Nikita and the guys there to make their vision of a game and not change it because of money. And that idealism is super cool, but very often the real world can't work like that. So there's more to expand on, but let's hear what he says.
So I was always a fan of that. So it's like hardcore type of thing. But due to expansion of the game, let's call it like this, a lot of people got excited about the game, and we got a lot of people from the mainstream even, so it was too hard for them to actually understand and play the game. So we decided to track it and make the game like not super hardcore, like mid-core or something.
Did Nikita just, I swear to God, he just created a new word right there, mid-core. Never heard that before, maybe I have, but you've got hardcore and then a little bit easier, you've got mid-core. So I don't know. It's not as ringy as hardcore, but I think it fits.
So yeah, it needs to be done because I'm a fan of the game being hard on you. I'm a fan of the true hardcore experience, and I was always repeating myself that the game is not for fun. EFT is not a fun game. It's not for your pleasure. It's just a pain in the ass, basically. And it's okay.
And so we've memed about this forever, right? And it's funny and it's laugh. And if you take this too seriously, go outside and take a breath. The meaning of this, the deeper meaning of this, is if the games that are fun are easy, they're simple. You can hop in, you can hop out, and that aspect is fun. What makes Tarkov special is that it is insanely difficult. You derive your enjoyment and your fun from the extreme difficulty of the game and it not being like other games. That's how I always saw it. That's how it was explained all these years by these guys. And we've seen this divergent principle in the game at the same time. In a single update, they will do things that make the game more hardcore. Think things like this wipe. You know, I don't know if you noticed, but when you open a door now, your gun goes down to like this weird low ready state for like a second and a half. That's crazy if you're being aggressive and you're swinging, and it's fine. I'm not complaining about it. It was just, that's a more hardcore mechanic. Technically, not being able to put gear into an unsearched bag is, I guess you could argue that's hardcore, but I think that has more to do with the cheater stuff. I'm guessing, it's a complete guess, but you know, if you have a search bag now unsearched, you can't put gear in it. You used to be able to fill it even if it wasn't searched, but you can't do that anymore. So stuff like that. But at the same time, they do things like make the flea non-found in raid, or they add arena XP and money, and they do stuff that is not hardcore. And I'm not trying to argue good or bad on that. I'm just trying to say that it's a divergent philosophy. They're going two directions, and they've done this every wipe. Even, you know, 2 or 3 wipes ago, I would say, when the game's been, was it 2 wipes ago? Probably about a year ago, into a year and a half ago, the game was probably in the most hardcore state you could say that it's ever been in. Then you had the Unheard stuff happen, and it all fell apart because they were throwing red meat to the crowd, the lions, the angry people, making changes based on what people were saying on Twitter just to try to get people appeased. I understand it. This isn't the time and place for the criticism of that, but we saw a lot of the hardcore stuff get peeled away from the game. And if you're a fan of that, great. If you're not, that's like me. That divergent principle, you really saw that. We've really seen that over the last couple of years, that there's been two visions combating here, and Nikita clarifies pretty well right now.
It's okay, because you will receive that emotions when you finally complete, when you finally win the raid. So you will receive that emotions, and that's one of the main things about the game.
Talking about hardcore.
If you got it too hard, you will receive a lot of responses, a lot of things that will draw attention of the game. So that's why we need to balance these things.
So expanding on what he's saying here a little bit, and this is for me talking to him. This isn't just me making it up. This is from context, more context for outside of an interview here. Basically, what they don't like is people get so spooled up with hardcore mechanics or stuff they don't like, they can't enjoy some of the other stuff in the game. So they're trying to walk that balance between pulling the game back to make it enjoyable, but maintaining their vision. And it's honestly an impossible battle. So that is just kind of clarify what he was getting at there.
And make it somewhere in between truly hardcore experience and a mid-core experience, something like that.
I can't imagine a single other game developer being like, our game is not supposed to be fun.
That's true, that's true.
Love him or hate him, fucking, I don't want to be mean and call him like Kirkland Russell Brand, because some of the guys made jokes about him being Russell Brand and it was funny. He does do a little bit of fluffing with BSG and talking it up, but he does actually a really good job as an interviewer. His job is to interview BSG and get answers, not beat him over the head, not be a shithead, not be monotone. He's entertaining, he's funny, he tries to keep the crowd engaged, it's live. So give the guy a break. Don't be hard on him. He did fantastic in this interview, and even the one in Europe. It would be great if a content creator that could drill into these questions a little bit more could get an interview like this. But this isn't the time and place, in my opinion. Now, what Nikita said about the game being made easier for a wider population, right? It's sad for me to hear. It really is. Now, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I'm not going to stop playing Tarkov. I'm not that kind of sad. It was just a letdown. One of the biggest things I've always loved about Tarkov over the years, and I talked about until really the last year when we started to see these changes hit, was they were going to make their game. Everyone else be damned. We're going to do what we want to do, if you like it or not, because we have our vision. And yeah, and I was all on board with that. I loved that. I love that principle because it's so separate from most of the gaming development communities out there now, especially a couple of years ago. There's been some good games recently, but I mean, keep in mind, Tarkov's been in the works for 10 years. It really is, it is cutting, it's breaking through the ice, it's cutting path, however you want to look at it, in this world that a lot of their companies didn't, which means their mistakes stand out and other companies get to learn from them, even though a lot of places are doing a really shitty job of it. I can't imagine, it's so hard for me to understand why companies with so much more resources haven't been able to duplicate this in a good way yet. But again, rambling, sorry. The point I'm getting at is I want the game to be I want the game to be more hardcore. I want it to be more complex. I want it to be a kick in the nuts every time you make a mistake. I want you to be punished from it so you can learn and you can get better. And the problem with that is the game is going to make less money because it appeals to a smaller crowd. And for me, originally, idealistically, I didn't care. I was like, fine, that's fine. Make the game. Who cares if it doesn't make money? Well, you know what? I'm not the one running the business. I'm not the one that's paying bills. I'm not the one that hundreds of people are depending on for their livelihood. I have been in that position before. If you're ever in that position, your decision-making process, it really changes. It reminds me of there's a scene in The Patriot, the movie, Mel Gibson, where he says, I'm a father. I don't have the luxury of principles. It's a really deep meaning thing. And there's a lot of discussion about that. But BSG really doesn't have the choices like that. And like most things, it's going to be shades of many other factors that got them to point where they are deciding to make the game mid-core. But at the end of the day, it could very well have meant the difference between the game getting finished and not. When it blew up and things got out of control and then COVID hit and they were lagging behind and things weren't going well, they very may well have gotten to a point where they're like, we can't finish this game if we don't maintain a bigger player base. And therefore, they need to make it easier. They need to make it mid-core so a larger group of players are willing to play it and enjoy it. And that's just a pragmatic way of going about business. It sucks for those of us that want a more hardcore game, but maybe we'll get that in game modes in the future or something. I honestly think if they set up alternate servers that are just pure hardcore, it's got a completely different kind of economy set up, no flea market, and that's how you play, I think that will be an insanely popular game mode for people to come back to and enjoy. But I could be wrong. What do I know? I don't make video games. So BSG is basically stuck with the place where they have to make what they want or alienate more than half of your player base. And you can see what they did. You can be critical of that. I will be, but only in a constructive way, I guess. Again, it makes me sad. I'm not going to stop playing Tarkov. I still love the game. Even as it is right now with the shitty economy, I'm still playing it. But it was a letdown for me personally. But all that being said, it is good to finally hear them say that and not hide, not kind of basically circle jerk around the entire theme of it. And they answered the question now, so we know. And that I am grateful for. So let's get to the next question now that I've got off my soapbox for now.
With the free weekend going on for Arena, do you believe that Arena could become a free-to-play game at some point in the future?
I don't like this question. I get it. Some people really care about it. I think it's just a short-sighted question. I think it's a wasted question. This is one of the lesser ones. There's more important stuff to worry about than if Tarkov Arena is going to become free, in my opinion, especially with them doing free weekends and stuff. But I get some people actually care about that shit.
I'm not sure, because Arena is a big part of the EFT. So
a hint here, when Nikita does like this, just from watching him over the years when he interacts in this direction, this is him realizing this is kind of a loaded question. He knows the answer, but he's trying to look for a way to answer it in a diplomatic way without just saying, no, we're not going to make the goddamn game free. Quit being so cheap. That's what I would say, but that's why I don't sit up and answer for big companies.
It's not like you can play it separately, of course, but the game, the Arena, is the big part of the EFT lore and everything. So I'm not sure that it eventually will be free to play, but at least free weekends is a kind of good thing for Arena. So most likely we will continue this practice in the future.
Which I think that's a great answer. He's diplomatic. He didn't call people cheap bastards. And I think one of the underlying bonuses to this is if you I say cheap bastard, if you can't get Arena because you can't afford it, I'm not trying to make fun of you. I get it. This is an opportunity for you to complete some of the quests and level up ref when you do get to that point. You can do a lot of these quests in a couple of days if you hit it hard, the Arena crossover quests, if you will, with ref, which is cool. Now, you won't get the bonuses and benefits of the long term, but you can get over to Arena, you can get some quests done, and you can progress that part of the storyline. You know, say they do this once a month or something and they're doing free weekends. I think it's a great way to find a balance between charging money for the game that they want to maintain their business, but not locking content behind a paywall that is part of the main game that honestly you probably should be getting it. That's a complex conversation, but I think this is a good balancing point. I don't think Arena should ever become free to play because there's lots of issues with that in general, but again, I'm not running the business, so that's just my take on it.
How do you handle the balance in terms of developing quality of life features and releasing the content patch pretty much every month?
This is a good question. I think it could have been, whoever put it together, it could have been asked in a more structured way to force an answer out of Nikita, because he does just kind of give a generic politician answer to it.
I was just talking about the EFT is not a fun game. The development of EFT is not a fun development.
They suffer, so we suffer.
We can feel your pain, and we actually have a lot of pain within the development too. So it's everything surrounded by suffering. And it's kind of okay, I guess, because it actually allows us to understand that the things are like what we're doing is important, because it actually has some kind of meaning, because everything is getting achieved with the pain.
I think he's trying to say that anything worth doing is hard. Easy shit doesn't give you a reward. Difficult shit does. I think that's kind of what he's getting at, which is kind of the undertone of Tarkov. What makes Tarkov, getting something done in Tarkov worthwhile is the fact that it was difficult to do. The easy shit you don't even remember, you don't even think about. It's the difficult stuff that sticks with you when you actually accomplish something. And that's real life as well, not just the game.
And that's a good thing. How we balance quality of life features and the content, it actually doesn't link anyhow, because we have different separate team for the content, different team for the quality of life features. We have a huge list of the quality of life features, and it's always a thing that we cannot take all of them for the patches, and we try to select the most important ones. And this is a thing that we can call a balance, because we just select things which are most important for the people or have the most influence on the gameplay in terms of quality of life features. And that's it. The content is a separate thing.
So he's basically just saying that there's two development trees. Content, which is going to be, I'm guessing in his mind, is going to be like new maps, new guns, new mechanics, like actual in-game mechanics, you will. Because there is things you could call mechanics that are quality of life. Little things that change that do quality of life, whether, I don't know how they consider quality of life, like the preset system, right? Is that a quality of life, or is that is that content? I don't know where that falls. But basically, they have a big list of quality of life features. And if there's anything out there that shows that BSG does listen to the community, even though they don't communicate the best all the time, it's the quality of life stuff. And Nikita, Dimitri, Apple, everybody I've talked to and at one point has emphasize this, that they get most of their quality of life ideas from the community, big time from Reddit. They don't say anything, they don't tend to give credit, but the ideas they get, or even partial implementations, they get from the community. So if you had ideas and you put something on Reddit and you thought you saw it in Tarkov or a shade of that, you very well may have helped make the game better. So pat yourself on the back. Nobody's going to believe you, unfortunately, but because it's the internet. But you take that pride with yourself that you helped make the game better. You made this experience better for everybody else. That's not a non-important deal. And it is part of how the community has impacted the game a lot over the last couple of years. Just quality of life suggestions and things like that.
And they just go in and go in and go in. They doesn't link anyhow to the quality of life feature production. There
have been discussions about TarCon for Tarkov players. Like an actual convention for...
So this is Tarkov convention, TarCon. It's been rumbled about for a couple of years now, ideas, mentions of it going back 2 years. I want to say the first time I heard it was Lucas Botkin and Clean were on a podcast with Nikita. And it was kind of brought up then and talked about it because I think it was during COVID. This was before even anything happened with Ukraine, and the travel restrictions with COVID were kind of why they were rolling their eyes. And then we got over that, and then Ukraine happened. So we'll see. Obviously, they can get into country. It's just because they're here doesn't mean it's easy. It is pretty difficult for them to travel to the United States, obviously.
I would love to hear if there are any more plans for that. And also, are there any plans to host EFT Arena lands at some point in next year or so?
Yeah.
If you're taking that as a bad sign, it is. You can tell he really doesn't want to answer this question.
So yeah, we have plans for that, for Tarkon. I know that it's kind of frozen right now because
That's his trying to find a nice way to say they want to do it, they can't. My guess is they looked at it and they started putting a plan together and realized how much fucking work and how big of a challenge and maybe how much, I don't know how much cost is going to impact on it. It's not easy to put these together, especially if you're from Russia. It takes a ton of coordination. It takes a ton of work. There's people that are entire careers. That's all they do is plan conventions for different things. So unfortunately, it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything soon.
we have a lot of events going right now, like Twitchcon, and so on. But the game will be here for the long time, at least for 10 years. And of course, I think...
Okay, so he keeps saying 10 years over and over again. It could just be really good marketing PR, but I feel like that internally, this kind of indicates they do have some kind of roadmap. They have set out, rough one, that they want to do 10 years of support for Tarkov, which from a revenue sense makes a lot of sense. If you can justify it and you can keep a game for 10 years alive, that's just that much ROI you get on your original investment. So from a business sense, it makes sense. I think it's going to happen. I think they have every intent for it to happen. Obviously, shit can go wrong. They can fuck up and people don't want to play the game anymore. But there's lots of examples of games going that long. I mean, shit, Tarkov isn't even finished and it's kept people captivated. Huge crowd for about 5 years now. 4 years, 4.5, I guess. But some people for many more years than that. So it's got the potential.
all this engagement, so we have like approximate overall engagement of the whole community around the world, like the people who are actually interested in the game, it's something around 50 million people. 50, not 15, 50 million people.
So 50 million. Now I want to be 100% clear here. He is not saying that there's 50 million people playing Tarkov. Okay, he's not claiming that. He's not saying that. And I know there's going to be people running around thinking that's what happened. This is impressions. It's marketing mumbo jumbo. What I'm getting out of this is they have some kind of marketing research they did. This isn't just how many people Google it, because the number's that's not 50 million when you look at Google numbers. What it is they have some kind of marketing profile that they've done that includes people that have paid for the game, people that play, or people that have bought it, people that are near buying it, people that are interested, people that are rough outside circle of this. It's a marketing funnel kind of deal. And that is potential customers. And they believe they have 50 million potential customers total. Now, it gets into some of their sales and stuff about how they target those people, how they acquire those people, but that is a huge number. And what a Tarkon does is it's another advertising aspect. A lot of this stuff is marketing, it's advertising. That's what Twitchcon is. That's what they're doing at Twitchcon. That's why they come and make nicey nice and get all of us fucking content creators to drink the hype Kool-Aid and get us all hyped up for the game. I'm aware of it. I'm fully filled up on hype Kool-Aid right now for the game. I'm self-aware of that, but I'm also enjoying it. So if you don't like it, fuck you. You're jealous. Kidding, sort of. But everything in business is business, whether you like it or not. And understanding that doesn't mean you have to dislike it. It just means you have to understand it. It doesn't mean they're not genuine. It's just there's reasons for things. So because of that, they have incentive to do one of these Tarkons. My guess would be like when they go to release. I think that right now, the way we're looking at, that is probably the best chance we'll see a Tarkon is when they're ready to release the game. They will do a Tarkon to announce release in 1.0 and do a big deal. Where they do that, I would put it 70-30 that it's going to be United States. It could be in Europe simply out of travel issues and setting up issues because it's easier for them to do it there than it is here. But I do believe that if they get the community involved, especially content creators, there is a very good chance a very good one could get put together, one that is meaningful, not one that's like TwitchCon where it's for streamers to go hang out and jerk themselves off about how fucking famous they are and have nothing there at the convention. Really, the convention was stupid. There was nothing in there of interest other than BSG and meeting people. It was great to meet those of you that came and said hi, but there really wasn't anything useful inside the convention. It was a giant waste of opportunity. And hopefully Tarkon can not do that and give something big for the fans, for the content creators, and also have it add value to people and not just be a waste of space. That's my hope anyways. But there's a huge chance for that. There's a lot of people in the United States that have done big events, that are content creators, that know how to put these on, that can arrange them and help BSG put it together. So fingers crossed, we will see something for this soon, like before release and not in 4 years.
And the number is so huge. Of course, this is the potential buyers of the game, so the people who actually interest in the game. And I believe that we need to do something in terms of like community stuff to make some kind of event, some kind of conference. So this task is still on the tracks somewhere, and eventually it will be 100%. And what was the second question?
The second question was whether or not there are any plans to host arena lands at some point in the next year.
Yes, because I believe it's already being done something in that direction. Even now, for the Twitchcon, we automated a lot of stuff for the specific purpose of the tournaments. And I believe in the future, it also will be possible. Again, with your engagement and with it, you know, like if I will see the need of additional action related for the events like tournaments and stuff, we will definitely do it. We kind of refer to your opinion and to your reaction. If we see that you guys are wanting it, so we are on it and we will do it. That's it.
We see a lot of esports tournaments already as well being hosted by Battlestate Games. We've seen a lot this year, and there are other tournament organizers now trying to get involved as well. Have you ever considered introducing betting so players could have an extra incentive to watch the tournament?
Okay, this was a really badly paced question. Old Russell Brand fucked this up. I don't know if it's because he didn't understand it or if he just didn't understand the delivery. Nikita beats around the bush here. I'll let it play so you can listen to it. But long story short, he's not talking about gambling, actually gambling. They're talking about in-game being able to take 10,000 rubles and bet on tournaments to get players more engaged in the game, in the stuff. And the answer is basically yes, they could do that if they wanted to. I just don't think they've looked at it.
What do you mean exactly?
I think this question means like gambling on the outcome of the events and things like that.
Actually, I don't know, because we were never about this particular case. We actually all.
And part of that is because if they were asking about IRL gambling, the answer is unequivocally no. It is basically impossible to do. It's impossible to do. Let's just put it that way.
About the experience, the emotions, and so on. So I think this particular thing is more on the organizers, I guess, on the promo companies and so on. So
I wonder if, outside of just straight up gambling, whether there's like any possibility to have an in-game option to like maybe bet on like esports events that are going, some sort of integration that's actually like in the game itself.
Again, it could be done within the in-game currency or something. It could be done 100%. But if it will be based on a real currency, it could be a violation in many, many countries around the world. So that's why we are not thinking about it right now.
With the release of PvE, which is actually almost like a standalone project, how did the process change in the development team? Did you divert some specialists from the team, like just to focus on the PvE?
I'm going to jump in here just real quick so I can just let him talk through this. But this question and answer spurred a conversation and some other questions I've asked that have led. I'm finally going to do a video talking about Unheard and breaking down what I think happened, how the community fell apart, how the BSG mishandled it, and also how the community, including myself, overreacted and didn't understand really what was going on, and then how the whole situation spiraled out of control. In my mind, at least to me, the crux of the issue was PvE, what it meant to the player base, and how BSG completely didn't misunderstood that and didn't get it. Which I can't blame them. Anybody that tells me they knew PvE was going to be as popular as it is, I don't know that I believe them that they actually knew it.
It's a pretty small part of the team who is working on a PvE functionality. And there was a moment that we did fully standalone offline raids. There was a moment we actually redesigned stuff in there, but it's not like a big amount of people working on that. But still, we have a pretty big plans for the...
So you get it. There's not very many people working on PvE by itself. It's a small group. If anybody, it's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably not even like a people working on PvE. It's probably additional tasks on their normal workload.
PvE with the additions of different features and stuff. The general like development process didn't change basically, but with all of this interest of the PvE, people loved PvE. It was unexpected actually. Yeah, we decided to add more resources to continue developing the whole PvE subsystems. PvE was a surprise.
Right now, and I asked Nikita, he didn't give me numbers, but I asked him, where do we sit? Where are the player bases at on Tarkov versus PvP versus PvE? And he said it's pretty much 50-50. So you have half of the population playing PvE, half playing PvP. Now, he did also emphasize that there were a lot of people that came back and played that weren't playing. For example, at the end of last wipe, their overall player count was higher than it normally is at the end of the wipe. And that was because people were playing PvE that normally either quit playing or came back to play. Now, that's not sustainable because PvE just rolls, right? The economy is completely ruined in PvE. It's a crazy mess over there if you don't play PvE. The economy is wild because nothing resets. There's not enough money sinks, blah, 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 blah. But it just speaks to the idea that how blown away and tipped over they were about they weren't expecting PvE to be what it was, which is part of the reason you could say they undervalued it, whereas we overvalued it. I guess I don't say overvalued, but we valued it, they valued it much less than we did, and that was part of a disconnect of the mess with Unheard.
With the popularity of PvE, and it took you by surprise, and talks of mod support as well, are there any plans to make it compatible with pre-existing third-party mods, with the inclusion of modding frameworks for Unity, such as Bepinex?
The whole idea behind the mods, I like the idea that players, creators will have an option to actually create mods for the game, for the PvE. And I was saying some time ago that eventually there will be a system which will consist of like moderations and I don't know, tools and everything that will actually provide creators an ability to basically add mods and stuff for the PvE. So I like that idea. And all of the existing stuff will have a process like a pipeline for adding those modifications officially within the game. So I 100% about it. So it's totally a good thing for the game. And yeah, like let's wait for it. I think it will be available sometime after release. So yeah.
All right. So this is a huge turnaround from past. They've been really negative toward SPT, banning people, really shitty, not have a good relationship with SPT, blah, 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 blah. That's in the past now. Nikita's changed a leaf. Whether you think it's genuine or not, doesn't matter. Sounds like we're going to get full mod support and a mod pipeline to bring in existing mods already from the SPT system. It's just going to be after release. So if that's your thing, here it comes. It'll be a positive. I don't see any net negatives to it myself. So it'll be interesting to see where we go. And I mean, that's the mod scene is what keeps a lot of games alive for much longer than their lifespan usually should be or deserves to be, because the community is the one that keeps them alive. And the mod scene is going to be the best way to do that. And hopefully BSG realized that, because that's how they keep it makes it easier for them to keep their game alive for 10 years, right? Even from just a money perspective, it's dumb to not let the mod scene get involved.
Are there any plans to have more armor to include throat protection, or even a standalone set for the neck itself? As this is quite a hot topic to the community right now. And I know a lot of players will be happy to hear any insight on this.
Yeah, I know that the neck hitbox is kind of bothering you right now. Hopefully something will be done, because there is some different things that we can do about it, some kind of interpolation, some kind of simplification of the hitboxes, we will do something. Because it's always like this. If we have some, ongoing, let's say, like ongoing rant about some kind of feature of the game, it's not like we don't care. We always try to take it into the consideration and make some changes. So
this sounds like they've only just kind of recently become aware of the net hitbox. Now, I don't know. I haven't noticed anything crazy with the net hitbox, but I know other content creators swear by it. They would die on that grave, on that hill, that the net hitbox is either bugged, it's overexposed, something, whatever. That's fine. I'm not going to argue against that. But it seems that BSG didn't really take it super seriously because Nikita kind of bounces around it, makes it sound like they're going to look at it, but they haven't looked at it yet. They're not going to add more armor, which I think would be a dumb idea anyways, to the neck hitbox. If it's not working, you don't just put a band-aid on it. You need to make a modification to either the hitbox, the health pool. You need to do something if it's a problem, or fix the bug if there's a bug and really genuinely is sticking out, or it's bigger, or it's getting hit when it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? That's how I see this neck hitbox kind of thing.
Most likely something will be done about it.
Are there any plans to utilize ETS more than it is now? We haven't heard any update about what's being tested on it other than Unity 2022.
It's a pretty big test. It's important. So right now on ETS, we have Unity 2022, and we have a responses that it's still the same. And it's good because it was the case, actually. We just needed you guys to test the build on Unity 2022 to have the feedback that everything is okay. So we will switch onto this new version for the main branch, and eventually we will start adding the features that actually suitable for Unity 2022 and add those fancy stuff that we promised. About the question that is there will be some new stuff to test on ETS. Eventually, yes, I don't have an exact plans for the testing for the.
They don't have any plans for testing. ETS is a side thought for them generally. They don't put much on it. They never have. The most common thing that has been tested has been Unity updates in the past. That's what they do, just to make sure that the game doesn't blow apart because part of the problem with Unity updates and things like that is it can have very dispersed impacts based on people's hardware. And you can't test that until you put it out to more people. Especially if you're like in-house and all your PCs are built the same because you buy them in like a package deal, you're not going to see problems because somebody has weird hardware. That's part of bigger testing. I don't like it. ETS could be used for all sorts of shit. You could test everything from changes to just balancing changes to armor or ammo, recoil. You could just throw all sorts of shit up there, let it run for a week, let players go ham at it, and get tons of good feedback and make really positive changes rather than kind of push this stuff to the overhaul community, potentially blow a wipe apart and ruin it, piss a bunch of people off, drive people away from the game. I really do think the ETS is a highly underutilized tool. Even if, I'm not super hung up on them not letting us stream it. Obviously, if they don't let people stream it, streamers and content creators aren't going to play it as much because they're not going to stream for 8 hours and then go play ETS for 2 or 3, unless you're a fucking psycho like me. I do that sometimes. Because the ETS it's not an NDA, but it acts like one. Basically, terms of service say you can't talk about it. If you do, you get kicked out of the ETS. I wouldn't expect anything from this. I wish they would use it more. I chalk it up at this point to just they don't have the will or the energy to put at ETS and have another engineer working on that and running that with everything else going on. It's just a manpower thing, and it's just not a priority to them, unfortunately, because I think it is a underutilized tool that could be a really big value to not just BSG, but the community as far as getting the game tuned and dialed in certain ways.
But eventually something will be for the ETS for sure.
With that transition to Unity 2022, will players see a difference with how the game works between now and once it's transitioned?
Okay, for the 400th time, Unity update is not going to massively impact the game immediately. I'm going to throw that extra word in there now, immediately. When we get Unity 2022, assuming everything goes well, we shouldn't see much of anything change. There might be small changes. What Unity 2022 is going to do is give the devs more tools to make things better, but they have to put the effort in. They have to go through that process to make them better. It's not just a magic fix. it could lead to huge changes eventually. Nikita talked about some of the graphic stuff and things like that. They've got some ideas, things they don't want to reveal yet. They want to keep in their back pocket for marketing reasons and hype reasons, of course. But if it all works out and it pans out, the new Unity could eventually lead to pretty substantial, not just look improvements, making the game look better, but performance improvements as well. Though most of the performance issues with with Tarkov are not related to Unity. They're more on BSG. They have to optimize, which they haven't done much of. Hopefully we get a lot of that in the next year. And then as well as like things with cheating and networking, there are things that will change with Unity 2022, but it's a process. They'll get it installed and then they can work towards those changes. It won't be immediate. It is a great thing. It is good that they're going to 2022, but it's not going to be a magic switch. Doesn't matter how many times I say that. Doesn't matter how anybody says that. It's not going to. People are still going to think it. So that's what I'm trying to just get across.
It won't be so noticeable at first, because yet again, it's just the change. It's not like the total change of the game engine. It's just a new version of it. But new Unity will allow us to implement some technical stuff that will give performance, that will give networking performance, and so, and it will be noticeable. But it won't be like this, that the game will totally change in terms of visuals, in terms of networking in one single day. So yeah, don't have those like high expectations on that. Of course there will be changes, but it will be gradually implemented.
So from the roadmap that we've seen, there are a lot of technical and quality of life improvements.
We'll talk about the roadmap here in a sec.
Teaser of what's the biggest priority for the team right now? Is it, for example, smoother and more stable FPS across locations, bug fixes, or features to make the gameplay loop more enjoyable?
Everything, is it's always like ongoing process for us to balance between optimizing features, quality of life features. But the good thing is, as I mentioned before, we have separate teams and they're working on the whole things all together. So I can say it like this: all of the roadmap stuff is important for sure, but the most important thing right now that we're doing is the end game content, storyline quests, preparation for release, and the events that we plan to release this and the next year for you. They are huge, they will be remarkable, and this is what we're actually working on, the most of the team working on right now. So roadmap doesn't actually represent all of the work which is going on right now. So yeah, something like that.
Just everything. Everything
is important. What can I say?
That's pretty much it. There isn't anything else in here. Again, if you want to watch the rest of Nikita going off, you can watch it at the end of the video. It'll be there. We're going to jump on though, because there's not anything really super substantive going on here. And the video's already dragging on. I want to get into the roadmap. So let's get to that real quick. Okay, so here's the roadmap. It's non-dated, but I will be able to fish some rough dates out of here. It's weatherman forecasting, so I guess technically I get paid more if I'm wrong. But it will give you a rough idea of where we're going to be at least where I think we're going to be at, based on all sorts of conversations and just history and stuff like that. First up is going to be patch 2.2.2 with Arena, a new location. Obviously, that's the castle one we were playing on Twitchcon. A new game mode. This is going to probably be domination. And I'm quoting Nice Guy on that, who got that question answered. I didn't ask it, he did. So if I'm wrong, it's not my fault, it's his. Go yell at him. The technical improvements, gameplay adjustments, quality of life improvements, these are kind of the generic things they put in there. I hate to like just kind of downplay them because they are important, and I know people are working hard on them, but they don't mean much in the context of this until we see what they actually are or if they work out. And then we've got the new HE grenade, which we didn't get any good answers on this. They kind of beat around the bush. I don't know if this means we're going to get like a grenade launcher, if it's going to be the impact grenade, or what it's going to be. Grenades are already busted in Arena. They're not in a good place. BSG acknowledges that. They're working and looking at ways to make them better balanced or less impactful, pun intended, on the match, where they're more of a utility versus an actual kill deal. Because we've all had it happen. Somebody dialed in, gets one of those grenades thrown when you're running out of spawn and you die to it, and then you spend the rest of the match watching your teammates fight, and it sucks. It's no fun. But they do have a place. They are good for pushing people off of corners, making tactical moves. So they do need to be in there, but they need a lot of balance. With that, we move to patch 2.3. Now, I don't know if these are sequential, if these are tied together. I don't know if this format is like this because that's just how they fit, or if these are going to happen at the same time, or one's going to happen than the other. So keep that in mind. I think they might happen at the same time, but could be wrong. Patch 0.2.3 is going to synchronize EFT to patch 15 and Arena. And that is important because of things like mechanics like bipods, smooth zoom on scopes, weapons like the M60 and the Desert Eagle, all of that stuff that was patch 15 that is going to come over that wasn't. That isn't in Arena right now. And then right after that, we get the Unity 2022 update for Tarkov. Now, what I don't know is if Arena, I don't know if Arena's on 2019 now, or if it's on 2022 already. If they're both going to update at the same time, I don't know. All we know is it says here that patch 15.4 is going to be the Unity update. And fingers crossed, it happens and nobody even realizes, nobody even notices that's what it is, because we've had Unity updates in the past that really break the game, and it breaks it for a week or two till they can get some of the bigger problems figured out. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Hopefully they've gotten through that and we don't have it, but I wouldn't bet my money on it. Let's put it that way. Okay, now we got the big one. There's a lot to talk about here. Patch 15.5 is a big patch, and at first glance I thought maybe this could be a wipe patch. But after reading through the whole thing and looking at stuff and questions, this is not going to be a wipe patch. And the reason for that is basically two big factors. One, we've got patch 16 coming, and patch 16 is an even number, big number patch. Those are usually wipes, and we're not gonna have two wipes in here like that. It's not gonna be. This isn't going into like next summer. Obviously, because patch 16 is also the winter weather season, which will be December, which historically is when wipes have been since 2020. So that's where I see that. But we'll get into patch 16 more. But 15.5 isn't going to be a wipe. Getting back to dates, patch 2.2, I would expect this sometime in like the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, based on kind of what they handed to us at Twitchcon. So figure that, and then maybe a week or two to patch this and this. So mid-October, we're looking Unity, maybe early October, we're looking Unity patches. And then patch 15.5, I would expect this sometime towards the end of October, and it might be even later, but I see this because of the in-game events thing, is why I say that, and we'll get that in a sec. But the stash hideout interaction while matching. So this means you're going to be able to mess around in your stash and your hideout while you're looking for a match. For some people, this is going to be a huge deal because you do spend 5-10, it depends on where you're at in the world. You can spend a long time matching, looking for a match. There's a blessing and a curse here though, because BSG has done a fantastic job in the last wipe, and really wipe and a half, getting matching times way down. Yes, you do load into raid and you're waiting on players, and that can take 3 or 4 minutes still, but I don't know what BSG can really do about that, because that's actually somebody else's PC you're waiting on, or a connection or something. The actual matching time before you start loading loot is 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute now. It's not very long anymore. So sure, you'll be able to do it. And I asked BSG if that's what that meant. If, you know, when are you going to be able to mess around in your loot? Is it only till loading loot? Is it when you're matched and you're waiting on players? Is it all the way to the raid counter? And it sounded like it was just during the actual matching clock, which is that first segment you go through. So obviously not 100% there, wasn't a 100% answer, but it makes sense to me, which is cool, but also not awesome if it's an extra minute in your stash. So kind of whatever, right? You're gonna be in the middle of something and get kicked out. Finally, we're gonna get the ability to lock items in the stash. And this is, I admit, this is a small thing. It's not huge, but it's something we've been promised for 2 years now. I don't remember when they added sorting to the stash. It's been a long time, but it was supposed to be part of that and it never was. And we've just been waiting for it, and now we have it. So it is going to be a cool quality of life feature. It's not game changing. It's just nice. And it's super exciting to have this. So basically what this means is, like, when your stash is all set up, you'll be able to like lock these containers up here and like these containers down here I have. And then you can sort everything in the middle of your stash if you wanted to. You know, when you get a bunch of loot and things like that, it just makes it easier to get through or get things together and condensed. It's a handy tool. It'll change how I interact with my stash quite a bit, maybe others. Just looking forward to it. After that, we got expansions to the new mechanics added in patch 15. So there are lots of things that are frustrating with us, like the fact that you can put a fucking bipod on a shotgun, but not most of the M700s or the T5000 or the 338 Lapua. Anyway, so hopefully this is what that means is they're getting bipods pushed to more and more weapons. If they're making some kind of game decision about they're not going to put bipods on some of the sniper rifles for like balance reasons or something, I will lose my shit. I promise you. I will be so mad about that. I will actually be mad about that because it's so dumb. But anyways, I don't think they're doing that. I think it's just they hadn't got through all of them and they're just adding them as they go. So hopefully we see bipods on things because the bipods they have in the game right now can fit onto almost every firearm in the game in some way or another. So yeah, we've also got tripwires. We were told that we were going to be able to booby trap bodies in cases in just basic talking about the booby trap system, and we can't do that. So I don't know if they just meant you can booby trap bodies in cases by setting tripwires around them, or if they actually meant we're going to be able to do something and booby trap those. So that could be part of this as well. We still have yet to see mortars. I don't know if they just haven't turned them on, if they didn't actually make it. I mean, they were in the patch trailer. I don't know if that's mean in here, but just something to mention that we haven't seen yet. And then there's things like the map-to-map travel could have some kind of expansions, maybe more of them going in a different direction. But these are all guesses. We don't know exactly what it is. Those are just my thoughts on what that might be. Technical improvements, sound engine improvements, AI behavior adjustments, game client performance optimization, same kind of deal, right? Could be incredibly important, especially AI behavior adjustments and sound engine improvements. These are big things. There was an interesting bit that I do want to mention. When I was talking to Gene, I asked him about Oculus, and he indicated they were still in Oculus. But Gene doesn't speak English very well, and I speak even worse Russian. I don't speak any Russian. I speak none. So the communication barrier there is pretty big. So he could have just misunderstood me and been nodding because Nikita told Nice Guy that they were removing Steam, which is even more confusing because Steam's been gone for like 2 years now. We've been on Oculus Audio. So maybe Nikita meant they were moving Oculus Audio and they were going to doing everything in-house. I do not know. Nice Guy and I both asked. Hopefully we get answers on it. When we do, we'll let you guys know if they are going to be nuking Oculus Audio now and doing everything in-house, which means this will be like the 4th complete overhaul of audio or 5th, which if you've been around for the previous ones, I'm not super excited about it, to say the least. But we'll see. It could work out to be great. We're also going to get the fall weather season, which is super big. That's a super cool deal. We'll see what it turns out to be. It could be terrible because it could be leaves everywhere and crunchy, 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 which will just, make you go insane if you have to listen to that for months. Kind of like the snow, but worse is what I'm imagining. But imagine it's going to thin out. I imagine it's going to thin out the foliage a little bit. Things will be able to easier to see. Maybe it might make contrast worse. It might make it harder to see players because of less contrast. We'll just have to see how it looks. It could be cool. It could be bad. We'll just have to judge it when we see it. And then they said weapon content. I feel like this means that it's not just new weapons. It's like additional attachments and things like that to weapons that are in the game. Hopefully it's both. Hopefully we get a couple of new guns and we get, because I know some people are still, they want like the Tavor and they want the FAMAS and you name it. There's a list of guns people want. It'd be cool to get them. But also it'd be nice to have more attachments for some of the guns that are already in the game. Obviously the RPD has a threaded barrel on it, but we can't put anything on it yet. Things like that. Maybe more attachments for the RPD. I don't know if there are. I don't know enough about the RPD to know if there is stuff for it, but it would be nice to see things like that for some of the guns that don't have really any attachments to them. And then in-game events. Nikita talked this up. We just heard it in the Q&A. He talked this up. There's big events coming. We were told very specifically. They told every creator. They told it to me, and then I heard them walk over and they were talking to somebody else and told them that you do not want to miss the Halloween event. Don't take vacation. Be around for it. It's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. They've obviously are super excited about themselves, so keep that in mind that the Halloween event this year will be pretty epic, which they've been pretty good. Of all of like the seasonal events, I want to say aside from the first year we got Santa Claus and he gave us gifts and how fun that was, the Halloween events have been some of the best and coolest, I think. My opinion. You can disagree. Followed by that, we're going to get patch 2.4 for Arena. Again, I think this is going to be, bounce back real quick, patch 15.5. Again, I think this is going to be end of October, mostly because of this, because of Halloween, but that could not mean anything. That could just be other events, and Halloween could happen before patch 15.5, but that's kind of how I see it. So this could push into November, but I'm thinking end of October. Patch 2.4, quality of life improvements, ranked calibration system. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know if that means they're just tuning ranked, the way ranked plays or what. Technical improvements, and the Molotov cocktail. So we're getting the Molotov cocktail in Arena finally. Whether that's going to come to Tarkov, I do not know. It's interesting, but the Molotov cocktail will provide an interesting dynamic in the game for tactical usage, for denying of areas and stuff for some of the objective-based games, and then just shits and giggles for non-objective-based. But we'll see the timing on that. I would expect it very shortly or at the same time as patch 15.5, like within a week or so, just based on the timing here. Because patch 2.5, we're going to get a battle pass system, and some people are going to cheer and some people are going to riot over this. Battle pass system, I can't imagine it's not going to cost money. What it's going to cost, we don't know. Is it going to be $5? Is it going to be 15? Is it going to be cosmetics? Is it going to be some super OP preset, which I don't know how they do that, because the presets are, you know, you can create your own now. So even if they make a preset in there, I imagine you could probably go make the preset unless they change some of the rules. But then that's pay to win and blah, 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 blah. We don't know. Cosmetics, I imagine maybe some access to other stuff, you know, GP coins, money, stuff if you do the battle pass. Pretty standard for that stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's a system for generating revenue for the game, which they need to do that because you have to pay for servers. Whether I partake in it or not, I don't know. I usually don't, but we'll see. Ranked season system. This is going to be implementing a season system for ranked, so it's not just resetting with wipes. It'll probably coincide with wipes, but instead of having this one long system that goes for 4 or 5 months between wipes and arena, if assuming that's what they're going to be, I don't know that they will be. They're going to have to be, though. They're going to have to wipe arena. Now that I say that, they have to wipe arena when they wipe Tarkov. They cannot, because of how much it would just break the game with moving stuff. But ranked season system, so that'll be cool. You'll have seasons you can play through like a lot of other games. Quality of life improvements, you know, and then a new location, which I don't have any information about this. We haven't been sneaked anything other than maybe some of the pictures, but we don't know if those are Tarkov Arena. But a new location coming in 2.5. This I would plant sometime in November. They would use this as a lead up to wipe. It could even be in December. Patch 16, new high-end content. We made fun of this for a while. I think it's just kind of a translation deal. All this means is endgame content. You know, stuff after you get like, I don't know, max traders, or maybe it's level 45 or 50, whatever you want to say. That's what that means. The new high-end content just means endgame content. More quality of life improvements. We're just going to see those trickle in, I think. Technical improvements, new weapons. So that's different from weapon content, new weapons. So we're going to get some new guns. Sound engine improvements. We'll see what that means. Again, I already talked about the Oculus and the whether they're going in-house or they're going to use Oculus. We don't know. Hopefully we get more answers and we can answer that later. Game client performance optimization. First time I think I've ever seen this note anywhere, at least in this way. Could be wrong on that. There's a lot of patch notes, but this tells me that they are actually going to start optimizing things because they're in the final stretch of the game. They can actually start optimizing shit because they're not going to be changing it. So we'll see how that pans out. I wouldn't expect to be able to play Streets at 60 frames on a 10-year-old PC ever. But maybe at least if you have a 5-year-old PC, you can play it at 60, 70 frames and your computer doesn't catch on fire. The expansions to the interactive location mechanics. Now, I don't know if this means, again, I didn't get answers on it. I don't know if this means they're talking about the map-to-map travel, or if they're talking about adding more things like the power switch on reserve or interchange, you know, the actual map, things on the map that you turn on power and things happen. I hope they are, because those are cool. There's a lot of there's so much potential with systems like that on each map that can lead to all sorts of things, like even having boss spawns happen to solve other problems. But I don't know what that means, but we're getting something revolved around that with patch 16, as well as the winter weather season. And I think everybody's pretty set on. Haven't met anybody who's really argued it yet, but this patch 16 is going to be a wipe, which is kind of scary because this is pretty light for a wipe, right? There's not a lot here. If this is a wipe patch, it looks pretty meager and like, okay, well, they're just going to reset the economy, I guess. We're not going to need content. But keep in mind, Nikita said there's a lot of stuff that's coming that is not on the roadmap because they want to surprise us. So we'll just have to wait and see. There is a very small chance that there will be some kind of prestige system or the first iterations of it here with patch 16, but I wouldn't expect it. I think that stuff's going to be after release. But there's going to be, think of what would they want to surprise us with and not list it. That's the kind of stuff that you should be looking for with this patch when we get wipe, probably the end of the year. I don't see why it wouldn't be sometime between Christmas and New Year's like it's been the last couple of years. Again, that's a rough prediction, weatherman. I could be wrong. We'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully they give us a date like they did, or a rough idea like they did before, so we can plan around it, which was nice. Figure end of December for a wipe, a reset, and hopefully a better economy or more balanced economy next wipe around. Okay, we're dragging on, but we're almost through here. Thank you guys for sticking with me this long. If you have, we are on to the patch notes. So this is for Arena. I just want to go over some of the stuff in case you guys hadn't seen it, expand on it a little bit, and not just read the notes as sometimes usually happens. But we got a task widget. Tarkov or BSG added a system now. I'll show you right here. It's this little thing. It shows your tasks. You can switch your task right there if you want. Replace it. It shows you the reward. I got leg of metal there, locked supply crate. I think that's a weekly. It's supposed to auto accept these. Like it looks like they're accepted here. But if I go into my stuff, oh, they are accepted. So these weren't accepted last night. So if you see them not accepted, go through, accept them. But it looks like it was just something hung up in the patch. These were not accepted last night. I'm glad they are now. It auto accepts. That's part of the deal of the patch notes. Is not only do you have this widget now that shows you your tasks so you can look at them easily, it auto accepts them. So there's no longer, you don't forget to accept your task. With that, we also got the shooting range, which is super awesome. And not only is it super awesome, hopefully they take some of the stuff that's in here and put it in regular Tarkov because they really need to. It would be nice. They add the ability to test your preset in the shooting range before a match. Shooting range features: targets set at different ranges, adjustable poppers, training program, resetting all bullet decals from targets, restocking consumables. To switch to the shooting range, right-click the preset, select shooting range in the context menu. Shortcut is also available on the top of the preset screen. Okay, that's not right. I don't know if it's an oversight. I don't know if they're changing it, but if you right-click, it says try out. It doesn't say that's how you get to the shooting range. Also, if you are in your preset, you can do it from right here. So you're playing around and you want to tweak stuff, you just click on that button. It's a little bit longer load the first time you do it, but after you go in, it's like a second, 2 seconds to get in. And once you're in, here's the range. There's all sorts of stuff, little kind of nooks and crannies and things. I haven't looked at everything yet for maybe potential like Easter egg stuff, but you can go up here, you can prone, there's all sorts of goofy stuff. And then you've got the reactive poppers and things like that, if you turn them on, which I'll do that. Let's see, turn on poppers. They will go down for you and stuff. Funny thing, the soda cans are actually reactive. As you can see, they do things in the beer bottles. You can break the beer bottles, which I thought it was cool. You might not care, but I thought it was cool that you can, break those things. They don't refresh though. You got to reload to, oh look, there's more there. Those don't break. You got to refresh the whole arena, which means you got to go into a match or you got to back out and join to get those to come back. Like if you shoot the targets, there's things and you hit this, then the decals disappear, and that works for all of them. There's a training program in here. You can fold the poppers down. You just turn on training and it starts. There's no control there yet. But the nice thing, you hit F and you restore your consumables. So you can shoot all your ammo. You don't have to back out and do the goofy dancy stuff for it. So yeah, that's the shooting range. Cool. I like it. It's definitely much needed addition. It's nice to have. So that's the shooting range. But the next up is we got in-game region selection, and I obviously haven't had a chance to really play Arena yet, so I don't know how well this is working. It's set up so you can pick 3 regions. If the ping of one selected region becomes higher than recommended, this region will be excluded from the matchmaking. If ping of all selected regions becomes higher than recommended, the server selection will change to automatic. So to get to this, you're going to go to your settings, and then all the way over on the right is regions. And this is where you can select where you want to. And I don't have a great ping anywhere, which sucks. But I'll select North American. That's all I'll do, because I don't like playing on high ping servers. I know there's ping abuse, and I know it matters. But on the other side, I also don't like it, because if you're not running around like an idiot the entire time, the only time it's an advantage is when you're being aggressive and pushing and really leaning into that peeker's advantage. Otherwise, it's a disadvantage, because it takes that much more time for you to see the person that's pushing you. Now, after that, we got some other stuff. Preset selection. You got the ability to reselect the preset at the start of the match when switching sides in blast game mode. Now, if you accidentally select the wrong preset, you'll be able to change it back to the one you want to use. This is good. So that's a nice thing. Much needed. That lock-in is really annoying and not being able to change it. So it's good to have that. Blunt damage is hugely overhauled. Now, I hate to say this, I have no idea if this is in Tarkov or not. I looked at the wiki, they haven't changed it, but that just means somebody might not have seen it yet. So this might be something we need to test, but this is a huge buff to blunt damage, especially on bigger calibers. Blunt damage is now proportional to energy of bullet, which is determined by its velocity, weight, caliber, and other characteristics, rather than only the total damage of the bullet. So beforehand, blunt damage was simply a percentage of the damage of the bullet. So Ultra Nozzler 308 762 F51 Ultra Nozzler had the same blunt damage as the 357 Magnum, I think, soft point round. Their damages are really close, so it didn't matter. They had the same blunt damage. Where that doesn't make sense. There's a lot more ass behind a 308 round than a 357 Magnum round. So that is going to be more realistic now. Increase the blunt throughput damage values for ballistic plates, armor, vests, plates, carriers, and helmets. Long story short, blunt throughput damage value is a modifier. So certain armors have deal more blunt damage than others. Some deal less, some deal more, some are right in the middle. This has been increased on plates, armor vests, plate carriers, helmets. So more blunt damage is going to get through. On top of that, soft armor under ballistic plate reduction, blunt throughput damage is 20% instead of 40. So before, if you had a plate and you had soft armor, that soft armor reduced blunt damage a lot. It was 40%. Now they have reduced it to 20%. So again, this is a huge buff to blunt damage, and I know this is going to make people's heads explode because a lot of people hate blunt damage. But it's a balance thing. You have to have a mechanic in there that if you hit somebody with 30 rounds, even if it's flesh damage, if you're hitting them that many rounds on the armor, they still die. This might need more tweaking. We'll see how it goes. Okay, added a restriction to the use of 2 identical weapons in one preset. This change is primarily aimed at improving the balance within a match, limiting number of tactics. So just can't put 2 weapons in the same preset. I didn't play around with a lot. In the preset system, it doesn't look like if I go in here and I do this, it lets me do it, right? But I don't know if it'll let me play like that. I don't know if it gives me an error message. Maybe it's only certain guns that it says you can't do that with. I'm not entirely sure. I think this is around the shotguns, things like the KS-23, some of the double barrels, things like that. Maybe the sniper rifles. They didn't want people being able to 2 things. 1, bring a gun in for somebody that they shouldn't be able to bring them in for, like people are juicing up an enforcer class, or 2, quick reloads and things like that. So it's going to take more time, but that's in there. Keep note of that. If your preset has it, it might be a problem. Next up is technical improvements. There was improved the network component of Escape from Tarkov. The following results have been achieved: increased server tick rate, improved interaction between game and server and client, reduced frame time on servers, reduced latency between network and packets and processed, fixed incorrect dead body inertia, reduced the number of situations in which we're not registered. Long story short, they've put new netcode in here. They've been working on netcode for a while. This is the first iteration, you could call it a soft launch, I guess, of the new netcode. And if they get it all worked out in here and it's working good, they are going to push that to Tarkov. So yay. Arena does feel much better, but it's very server dependent. If you're on a close server and you have a good ping, the game feels fucking fantastic. Things are snappy. People die when you shoot them. Hit registration feels really good. If you're on a laggy server, you're connecting to Europe and you're in the United States like me, it sucks. And that could be bad servers too. There could be servers that are just bad. I don't know. Either way, the game does feel good sometimes, bad others. Hopefully they get that dialed in so it's more consistent. So yeah, technical improvements. Balancing changes. I'm not going to get into this. They increased and reduced the match point or meta points. Is that what it's called? These things down here. Yeah, meta score. The points, they dialed these in a little bit. They've changed. So keep in mind that if you haven't played, you need to go look at your presets because you might be a little bit over. I was on a couple of mine. I had to make some small tweaks. Like I'm talking like 10 or 15 over maybe. It just kind of depends on your kit probably. But they did change them. And if they did that, your kit won't work. So you have to fix those. And then balancing changes. I didn't look through every single one of these because I honestly didn't want to scratch my eyes out. But I looked at a couple of the important ones, and it looks like they just brought them up to par with Tarkov. So patch 15 changed a bunch of ammo stuff. This is bringing those ammo stats to the same deal because the armor is the same now, and that's kind of how to do it. And here's their warning. Due to update the armor mechanics, the overall MP values have been recalculated. Please note that some of your presets may have become over or under MP limits. Due to the balancing changes, we recommend checking and updating your presets before matchmaking. So there you go. That is the arena patch. We're done. Okay, so this is honestly one of the longest videos I've ever done. I hope it added value. This might do terrible. If it does, we won't do it again, but I wanted to get everything into one video and get my thoughts out on it because it was all kind of linked together, especially stuff with Twitchcon stuff. We'll do another one. We're going to talk about Unheard. If we get any more news from BSG, stuff like that, we'll get that out to you guys. Nolan did a video. He had a sit-down interview with Nikita. Nolan, nice guy. Go check that out. There's a shitload of good information in there. I touched on a little bit here, but I didn't want to steal his thunder. It's his deal. He got the interview. He did the work. Go watch his video because there's a ton of stuff in there that he got straight from Nikita that adds deals, things like kill cam, stuff like that I didn't talk about that he did. So go make sure you check that out. And with that, we'll wrap her up. As always, shout out for my music. Link is down in the description. Go check it out. It supports me as a content creator. Partnership with Low Records. We make it for the community and content creators. If you are one, you can use the music without fear of DMCA takedowns or copyright strikes. That's what it's there for. All we ask is you attribute us so people know where to find it if they listen to it and like it. That's all we need. Free of cost. Use it. That's what it's there for. I listen to it every day on stream. If you go to Spotify, make sure you follow me as an artist there. Add a couple of songs to playlists or add the whole playlist, whatever you want to do. That helps me out a ton. And if we get up to about 1,000 people listening a day, which I think we're about 800 now, if we get up to 1,000, we can make another album. and we'll get another album out for you guys, and that'll be awesome. But that's it. Appreciate it. I will quit talking. I am tired. My office is a bazillion degrees because I have my air conditioner off. You guys don't care, though. We'll see you guys out there. I wish you the best of luck in raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.
Twitchcon San Diego. Guys, how are you doing? Absolutely rubbish. Guys, how are you doing? That was kind of the same energy, but more people joined in. I'll accept it for now. I'm sitting down on the sofa with Nikita or Nick, because we're friends like that. And he said I could call him Nick. Guys, if you don't know who this man is, the founder of Battle State Games, of Escape from Tarkov and Escape from Tarkov Arena, and DJ extraordinaire, probably a bunch of other stuff as well, but we've only got like half an hour. So, Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Hey. Welcome, and as always, love to be here on a Twitchcon. Yeah, let's go.
And Nick joined us in Rotterdam as well. We were playing Arena at TwitchCon EU. He came up, we asked him a ton of questions. He gave us the answers to some of them. He refused to give us the answers to the others. And I know that you wanted to start off with some statements today, right? To talk about the state of the game?
Yeah, like the quick update what's going on right now. So the thing that I want to mention that we just released the milestones and stuff for the future. It has a lot of things that will be in the game, so you should check it and see by yourself. But also, there's the thing that we prepare pretty cool stuff for you this year, and we won't disclose it yet because we want to make a surprise for you guys. And yeah, so things are going, bugs getting fixed. So don't worry, all the issues that we have right now, it's getting addressed as we speak, because even we are here, it's a really limited amount of people right here. The team is working 24/7 to fix all of this stuff, to fix all of this, annoying things within the game. So don't worry, everything will be all right. It's almost 10 years of Escape from Tarkov. It's a huge number actually. And it's pretty unique for the gaming industry to have the game which being worked on for the whole 10 years. And it's a miracle. Not only, it was done not only by ourselves, but with you guys, of course, the players, and all these engaged people who are into this Escape from Tarkov miracle. So thank you guys. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say for the status. Yeah.
10 years of development on this game. Guys, come on. The amount of work that goes into this game is just, I mean, it bleeds out of every pore of Tarkov. Like, just the detail of everything is so phenomenally in-depth. And the community feedback, I know, is incredibly important to the Battle State Games team. And we have questions here, a mixture of just things that we wanted to ask and community questions as well. And I think it's time to get into them because we have a lot and I don't know if we're going to be able to get through them all. So I'm going to read these out exactly as written because I want to make sure that if someone asks a question, it's asked properly. So Nick, first question, are you happy with the current state of the game's economy and the player's progression? Will we ever see a more hardcore enemy?
So yeah, this vibe particularly, it's not what's supposed to be in terms of progression, because we added Arena, we added this new marathon quest, and it actually gave you a lot of experience, so the pace was increased for sure. And it's not how it's meant to be in Escape from Tarkov style, so most likely for the next vibe there will be some changes that will slow down the progress for sure, because right now, let's take it as it is, as a test maybe, and yeah, that's it, because it's not like a problem, because of course, we get it, that it was too fast actually. But some of you like still think that it's okay because like not everyone is a streamer basically and have an option to play the game every single day for 6 hours, 8 hours, etc. So yeah, every single wipe there is something new is going on in terms of balance, economy and stuff. So let it be this way. So this wipe is different. The next wipe will be totally different too. And everything will be balanced in different way. We'll see how it will go.
Okay. So what is the future direction of the game? So MMO, maybe massively multiplayer online, or something closer to a raid-based shooter?
So right now, I think the most part of like the bigger part of the team is working on an actual completion of the game. So you all know that the game will have storyline quests, and it will have an option to finally escape from Tarkov. So that's why we're pushing on it. And right now it's more about to add the end game content within the game. And yeah, it will be around the whole principle of raids, and yeah, it will be around like this. Because the MMO aspect of the game, it still will be in there, but I think the gameplay-wise, and we kind of settled in, and I think the core gameplay is ready, and we won't change something drastically. So yeah, this is it.
Next question's about the flea market. It says, there was a poll made to remove the flea market next wipe, and 47% said yes, 45% said no. Will we ever expect to see a wipe without a flea market, even just as a test? And what are the general plans for the flea market?
So the percentage is not all right, because it will leave a lot of people unhappy, basically, if we select like this or that. So most likely the removal of the flea market will be as an option for the hardcore mode. So we plan to have this whole prestige system within the game, and you will be able to pick the perks and the drawbacks before you start the game. And one of the drawbacks will be like removal of the flea market. So at least it will be as a test for some of you guys if you will select that option. But other than that, I'm not sure that we will remove it totally for the wipe. But again, it's possible actually, because I love the idea that every single wipe has something new, has something different in it. So who knows, maybe we'll remove that at least for one wipe and see how it will go. Because I personally don't like the flea market. I was loving it. I was loving it for the many years, and right now I'm feeling that it's not good for the progression and for the whole principle of the game itself. But it is what it is. It's a different style of gameplay. You can have basically the different role within the game. You can be the trader basically, and you won't need to play the game as much that other people do. So it is as a workable, livable thing within the game, but yet, due to the complexity of the game, all of this stuff we have in the game, flea market adds unneeded, let's say, combination, unneeded things that actually boost up or slow down progress. It's kind of hard to track the progress and how to be on the pace with the progress within the game with the flea market, because it allows you basically to make your progress much more faster by obtaining items, like high-end items in early stages of the game. So it's not cool. We will think about it in the future, so yeah, maybe something will be happening about it, but at least it will be an option for the hardcore mode for the game.
I honestly, one of my favorite things about speaking to Nick is that you can tell there's not really like a PR filter like you get when you do most interviews. Like someone will ask, like, what do you think about this feature of the game? And he's like, I don't like it. Honestly, that kind of honesty is exactly why we've got this huge crowd of people standing behind the crowd as well, watching this. So thank you for coming to talk to us. And you've been working on this, like you said, for a decade now, 10 years. So what are the plans for the team for after Tarkov? Will you resume development on Russia 2028, or are you working on something different?
So first of all, the Tarkov will not end with the release of the game, so it will be DLCs and stuff. And most importantly, there will be new game. And we already kind of started the pre-production phase on that. And you will see. But again, the EFT must be released, must be polished, and actually, all of the stuff we planned for the release is kind of locked in. We actually don't add anything right now, so it's kind of locked and ready to be done and eventually to be released. And that's important. After that, we will have the DLCs and everything, so the game will be live for at least one more decade or something, because it's already became a classic, I guess, and that's cool. That's cool because it's always a good thing for us, for developers, to see every single year for the whole 10 years. We kind of pushing our limits to something even bigger and bigger and bigger. And as I said before, it's a true miracle, and not only about our hard work. It's also about you guys, about your reactions, your feedback, and your dedication to the project. I received so many responses for this only single day. So yeah, we love you guys, and thank you for staying with us. Like, it's a good thing for us to keep going. Thank you.
And I think, honestly, saying that this game is a classic is kind of underselling it. Like, you literally spawned a genre of games now that are just sort of like, hey, have you played this new Tarkov knockoff game? Like, it is pretty incredible to basically now have your own category of games based on what you guys have done continue to do.
It was totally unexpected that there will be a realization that we actually created a genre. It was unexpected to say the least. So yeah, yet again, we just want to create a unique experience, and maybe it sounds dull, it sounds okay, but we really are trying to do the best, and it's still 10 years, and we still have something for you guys to surprise, and 100% you will love it. And yeah, you will experience that, and yeah, that's the most important thing, to see your reactions, to see your feelings, to see you're basically surprised, and it's super cool for us to see that and to feel that too.
I want to roll the next two questions into one, because they're both related to what you said before about how development doesn't end when the game gets finally released as a polished game with endgame content. Will there be more endgame content? For example, having something to spend millions of rubles on for a unique item that persists through wipes, more rewards for achievements such as unique hideout decorations, trophies, or any other long-term goals we can progress towards? And would there be any new monetization plans like camo skins, clothes, hideout cosmetics, things like that?
As I mentioned before, there will be a prestige system that will allow you to play the game constantly, repeatedly, and to earn some unique stuff. So you basically will complete the game, complete the main quests, and you will be able to restart it, but you will receive the prestige points or something. So it will be different prestige levels and some unique stuff, the first thing. And again, as I mentioned it before, all of the end game content will be settled in the storyline quests. To complete the storyline quest, you will need to complete almost every aspect of the game. You will need to spend a lot of money within the game, complete a lot of quests. So basically, the main driver to experience the end game content will be the completion of the storyline quests. And of course, I cannot say more about it because, as I mentioned it many times, the quests, storyline quests, will be available only in released version of the game. You won't be able to test them before because it's the final, how to say it, final shot, let's say it like this, to surprise you in a good way and to have this feeling that the game is actually completed and all of your effort you put in the game will be around some very important tasks called storyline quests. So yeah, eventually, soon enough, you will experience that because we spend a lot of time on that right now. We started doing them in the last year, so it's an ongoing process. A lot of effort is being put on to the storyline quests, and hopefully you will enjoy it soon enough.
Soon enough. That's not soon enough. Everyone is just so excited for the end game content, for this game to be released in full. Are there any plans to rework the operational tasks? Currently, they are too randomized and sometimes have out-of-the-way objectives for little reward. For example, killing other scavs as a scav for an operational quest for fence for only 0.1 rep and a few bandages. And I'm going to remind you, these are questions from the community, and I'm trying to read them as they're presented. They're quite blunt questions, a lot of them.
For the operational tasks, I think there will be another balancing pass on them because there is a lot of different generated subtasks for that, and it's not always perfect in terms of awards and everything. So most likely it will be balanced pretty quick, maybe for the next patch or the patch after the next patch. So yeah, something will be done in terms of that.
In your opinion, what is the ideal loot economy meant to be? Do you want resources to be scarce and more hardcore, or do you want players to hunt expensive items to fund lesser valued items through the flea market and traders?
It's a good question, actually, because I was always a fan of hardcore type of game. So the initial concept of the game was about the actual struggling. So the ammo and everything, the treatment items, the initial concept about them was they were too scarce, too rare to find, and that was kind of main thing. So you actually need to find 5 rounds, 10 rounds, one single grenade in 1 week. So I was always a fan of that. So it's hardcore type of thing. But due to expansion of the game, let's call it like this, a lot of people got excited about the game, and we got a lot of people from the mainstream even. So it was too hard for them to actually understand and play the game. So we decided to track it and make the game not super hardcore, mid-core or something. So yeah, it needs to be done because I'm a fan of the game being hard on you. I'm a fan of the true hardcore experience, and I was always repeating myself that the game is not for fun. EFT is not a fun game. It's not for your pleasure. It's just a pain in the ass, basically. And it's okay. It's okay, because you will receive that emotions when you finally complete, when you finally win the raid. So you will receive that emotions, and that's one of the main things about the game. But if you got it too hard, you will receive a lot of responses, a lot of things that will draw attention of the game. So that's why you need to balance these things and make it somewhere in between truly hardcore experience and a mid-core experience, something like that.
That's so. I can't imagine a single other game developer being like, our game is not supposed to be fun.
That's true, that's true.
I love it. I love your honesty. And honestly, it's just so refreshing to talk to you up here, Nick. Hey, and by the way, Escape from Tarkov Arena that we're playing on stage all weekend is free this weekend. It is free to play until Monday. So if you haven't played it, you go and play it in the LAN. If you're watching at home, play this game while you can for free this weekend. And this next question is about that. With the free weekend going on for Arena, do you believe that Arena could become a free-to-play game at some point in the future?
I'm not sure, because Arena is a big part of the EFT. So it's not like you can play it separately, of course, but the game, the Arena, is the big part of the EFT lore and everything. So I'm not sure that it eventually will be free to play, but at least free weekends is a kind of good thing for Arena. So most likely we will continue this practice in the future.
How do you handle the balance in terms of developing quality of life features and releasing the content patch pretty much every month?
I was just talking about the EFT is not a fun game. The development of EFT is not a fun development. Because you guys, we can feel your pain, and we actually have a lot of pain within the development too. So it's everything surrounded by suffering. And it's kind of okay, I guess, because it actually allows us to understand that the things are like what we're doing is important, because it actually has some kind of meaning, because everything is getting achieved with the pain, and that's a good thing. How we balance quality of life features and the content, it actually doesn't link anyhow, because we have different separate team for the content, different team for the quality of life features. We have a huge list of the quality of life features, and it's always a thing that we cannot take them, we cannot take all of them for the patches, and we try to select the most important ones. And this is a thing that we can call a balance, because we just select things which are most important for the people or have the most influence on the gameplay in terms of quality of life features. And that's it. The content is a separate thing, and they just go in and go in and go in. They doesn't link anyhow to the quality of life feature production.
Something that I think a lot of people here might be interested in. There have been discussions about TarCon for Tarkov players, like an actual convention for Tarkov players. Now, I would love to hear if there are any more plans for that, and also, are there any plans to host EFT Arena LANs at some point in next year or so?
Yeah. So yeah, we have plans for that, for TarCon. I know that it's kind of frozen right now, because we have a lot of events going right now, like Twitchcon, and so on. But the game will be here for the long time, at least for 10 years. And of course, I think all this engagement, so we have approximate overall engagement of the whole community around the world, like the people who are actually interested in the game, it's something around 50 million people. 50, not 15, 50 million people. And the number is so huge. Of course, this is the potential buyers of the game, so the people who are actually interested in the game. And I believe that we need to do something in terms of community stuff, to make some kind of event, some kind of conference. So this task is still on the tracks somewhere, and eventually it will be 100%. And what was the second question?
The second question was whether or not there are any plans to host arena lands at some point in the next year.
Yes, because I believe it's already been done something in that direction. Even now, for the Twitchcon, we automated a lot of stuff for the specific purpose of the tournaments. And I believe in the future it also will be possible. Again, with your engagement and with it, you know, like if we will see the need of additional action related for the events like tournaments and stuff, we will definitely do it. So we kind of refer to your opinion and to your reaction. If we see that you guys are wanting it, so we are on it and we will do it. That's it.
What do you think, guys? Do you want to see some lands for this game? I think there's a lot of support for that. So he has to do it now. You wanted it, he said. So hey, we see a lot of esports tournaments already as well being hosted by Battlestate Games. We've seen a lot this year. And there are other tournament organizers now trying to get involved as well. Have you ever considered introducing betting so players could have an extra incentive to watch the tournament?
What do you mean exactly?
I think this question means like gambling on the outcome of the events and things like that.
Actually, I don't know, because we were never about this particular case. We actually always about the experience, the emotions, and so on. So I think this particular thing is more on the organizers, I guess, on the promo companies and so on. So
I wonder if, you know, outside of just straight up gambling, whether there's like any possibility to have an in-game option to like maybe bet on like esports events that are going, some sort of integration that's actually like in the game itself.
Again, it could be done within the in-game currency or something. It could be done 100%. But if it will be based on a real currency, it could be a violation in many, many countries around the world. So that's why we are not like thinking about it right now. So, yeah.
With the release of PvE, which is actually almost like a standalone project, how did the process change in the development team? Did you divert some specialists from the team, like just to focus on the PvE?
Actually, it's a pretty small part of the team who is working on a PvE functionality. And there was a moment that we did fully standalone offline raids. There was a moment we actually redesigned stuff in there. But it's not like a big amount of people working on that. But still, we have a pretty big plans for the PvE with the additions of different features and stuff. So the general like development process didn't change, basically. But with all of this interest of the PvE, people loved PvE. It was unexpected, actually. And yeah, we decided to add more resources to continue developing the whole PvE subsystems. So yeah, PvE was a surprise, for sure, for me. For sure.
With the popularity of PvE, and it took you by surprise, and talks of mod support as well, are there any plans to make it compatible with pre-existing third-party mods, with the inclusion of modding frameworks for Unity, such as Bepinex?
The whole idea behind the mods, I like the idea that players, creators will have an option to actually create mods for the game, for the PvE. And I was saying some time ago that eventually there will be a system which will consist of like moderations and I don't know, tools and everything that will actually provide creators an ability to basically add mods and stuff for the PvE. So I like that idea. And all of the existing stuff, we will have a process, like a pipeline, for adding those modifications officially within the game. So I 100% about it. So it's totally a good thing for the game. And yeah, like let's wait for it. I think it will be available sometime after release. So yeah.
Fantastic. You actually answered my next question with that question as well, so that was fantastic. Are there any plans to have more armor to include throat protection or even a standalone set for the neck itself? As this is quite a hot topic to the community right now, and I know a lot of players will be happy to hear any insight on this.
Yeah. I know that the neck hitbox is kind of bothering you right now, and hopefully something will be done, because there is some different things that we can do about it, some kind of interpolation, some kind of simplification of the hitboxes. We will do something, because it's always like this. If you have some, ongoing, let's say, like ongoing rant about some kind of feature of the game, it's not like we don't care. We always try to take it into the consideration and make some changes. So most likely something will be done about it.
Are there any plans to utilize ETS more than it is now? We haven't heard any update about what's being tested on it other than Unity 2022.
It's a pretty big test. It's important. So right now on ETS we have Unity 2022, and we have a responses that it's still the same, and it's good because it was the case actually. We just needed you guys to test the build on Unity 2022 to have the feedback that everything is okay. So we will switch onto this new version for the main branch, and eventually we will start adding the features that actually suitable for Unity 2022 and add those fancy stuff that we promised. And about the question that is there will be some new stuff to test on ETS. Eventually, yes, I don't have an exact plans for the testing for the ETS, but eventually something will be for the ETS for sure.
With that transition to Unity 2022, will players see a difference with how the game works between now and once it's transitioned?
It won't be so noticeable at first, because yet again, it's just the change. It's not like the total change of the game engine, it's just a new version of it. But new Unity will allow us to implement some technical stuff that will give performance, that will get networking performance, and so, and it will be noticeable. But it won't be like this, that the game will totally change in terms of visuals, in terms of networking in one single day. So yeah, don't have those like high expectations on that. Of course there will be changes, but it will be gradually implemented.
So from the roadmap that we've seen, there are a lot of technical and quality of life improvements. Could you give us a teaser of what's the biggest priority for the team right now? Is it, for example, smoother and more stable FPS across locations, bug fixes, or features to make the gameplay loop more enjoyable?
Everything. Everything, is it's always like ongoing process for us to balance between optimizing features, quality of life features. But the good thing is, as I mentioned before, we have separate teams and they're working on the whole things all together. So I can say it like this: all of the roadmap stuff, it's important for sure. But the most important thing right now that we're doing is the end game content, storyline quest, preparation for release, and the events that we plan to release this and the next year for you. They are huge. They will be remarkable. And this is what we're actually working on, the most of the team working on right now. So roadmap doesn't actually represent all of the work which is going on right now. So yeah, something like that.
Just everything. Everything.
Everything is important.
That's-
What can I say?
Last question from the community here. You made audio this wipe more realistic and closer to how everything sounds in real life. Can you share a little bit of what has been done behind the scenes to give this level of kind of realism?
So yeah, we reworked the headsets and everything, and it was actually a process that we bought a lot of headsets in real life, and we just record them live in the field. So we actually added to the process the engineer team, the sound team, so they basically work together live in the field. They like tested everything and tried to represent the real life prototypes. So yeah, so it's that simple. We just added engineers for the actual live testing of the real life devices, and that's it.
That's fantastic. Hey guys, make some noise for Nikita, please. That's such an incredible interview.